morning, good afternoon, good evening. Brett Mvet, he is a Zimbabwean political activist who, for many people on the social media, have met on a number of occasions. You can find some of his ideas expressed if you Google Brett Mvet on YouTube. He's got a number of postings there. And I'm sure you can get similar things on Facebook, Index, and so forth. What I like about him is that he is one of the few political activists who, together with some of his friends, have dared to express their views openly and without fear. This is quite unusual in Zimbabwe, where the overwhelming majority of our politicians will never want to express anything for which they may be held to account for. Here is two of his latest postings.
So once you have identified method, this doesn't work. Once you have identified that, you now need to look at the people and the leaders that are offering you that advice. Kana uri kurwara une chikosoro, panoda mushonga wekukosora. You don't need ARVs. You don't need Panadol. You don't need vitamins. Panoda mushonga wechikosoro. That's what's needed. So let us identify what the leaders are selling us. So which the leaders that you know in Zimbabwe currently in the opposition, who is advising us to go for another election? Who is advising us to go for another demonstration? Who is advising us to go for another court application? Who is advising us to post more things on Twitter and this and that and letters to SADC, African Union, what? Who's advising us to do that? Because if people continue to advise us to do things that we know are not going to work, we must question pfungwa dzevanhu ivavo kuti dzakakwana here, yes or no. So therefore the opposition needs different players with different thinking and different strategies. You see, you can combine all these old players, but the strategy will be the same. They will frog march you to an election and it will be pointless. The outcome is already known. Zanu PF works one election in advance. So this election for 2028, yatopera. Yakatogadzirwa the last 2 years dzapfuura. Zanu PF is looking past 2028. So what you've seen here is a game that Zanu PF own the opposition. The opposition pretend kuti tiri opposition. They come to an election. The world sees kuti inga ku Zimbabwe kune democracy. There is democracy in Zimbabwe because Panama opposition people have voted and they've just won. The opposition have about 40% or 30% of seats in parliament. They control my two capital cities, Bulawayo and Harare. Well, there must be democracy, indeed. Because if there wasn't democracy, that would not be possible. So the idea of an opposition, yes, but it needs to be an opposition via a government in exile, an opposition led by people in exile, an opposition that builds up a military wing in exile, and an opposition that pushes and organizes and sponsors and funds a people's revolution.
I'll stop it there. Let me say from the outside that I salute people like Brett. This is a rare thing in Zimbabwe politics. Somebody who is prepared to speak up and express their views and is not afraid or will not be intimidated into silence. That is unusual in Zimbabwe. Leaders like Eddison Zvobgo have explained why that is so. In Zimbabwe, our politics has been the politics of mediocrity, to say the least. The people of Zimbabwe have, more often than not, fought hard to resist, or rather the politicians have resisted coming up with anything that could be considered as policy. And this has been the common thing in Zanu PF itself, and then the opposition have taken up the same tactic. It is very rare in Zimbabwe to find a politician who will stand up and say what they believe. The main reason for it is actually very simple. Eddison Zvobgo spoke about it. He said when he and his Zanu PF colleagues were in Mozambique, and they would have a discussion. And if the other person feels they are losing the discussion, they will turn around and accuse you of being a CIA. He called it the Mozambique syndrome. And he explained it that whenever they lost an argument, when we were in Mozambique, they would accuse you of being a CIA to avoid the substantive issues. Today, they call you an American puppet to avoid responsibility. Some people have failed to understand the full import of that mentality. The truth of the matter is, it has stifled all meaningful debate in the country. We cannot have a situation where debate, we cannot have an open debate on any issue. And that is exactly what has happened in Zimbabwe. And that is why I salute people like Brett. They are prepared to stand up and say what they believe in, put it out there on the public forum, and are prepared to stand up and defend it. In a later version, or rather another audio on the same theme, Brett explains that in Zimbabwe, there's been quality leaders and names Dr Nkosana Moyo as one of those. And I agree with him. I think in the 2018 elections, Nkosana Moyo offered something different. Some of the policies that he was articulating made a lot of sense. The only question that I would like people like Brett to ask themselves is, so why is it that Dr. Moyo failed to make any political inroad in 2018? Millions of Zimbabweans supported Chamisa. And he promised them that MDC alliance was going to win those elections because there were stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. That was a fact. Of course, that was an idiotic lie. Because as we know, Zanu PF blatantly rigged those elections. That is where our problem is. We cannot run away from the fact that we have had the great misfortune of having universal suffrage in a country where millions of our people are ignorant, naive, and gullible. That has been the reality. You have got to ask yourself, why is it that millions of people were easily conned by Chamisa to participate in flawed elections? The truth of the matter is, ever since MDC was launched in 1999, the party told the followers and the nation at large that they were going to bring about democratic changes. But they never articulated what those changes are, much less how they were to be implemented. And so we've had all these people supporting the MDC without any knowledge of what it is they wanted MDC to do. And so universal suffrage is meant to give the right to vote to somebody who understands what is at stake, who understand the choices before them, and who are prepared to hold those in positions of power and authority to account. All those qualities are not there in the Zimbabwe electorate. Both Zanu PF and MDC Alliance have never taken the trouble to educate their followers. Indeed, both of them have seen the advantages of brainwashing their followers with rhetoric and meaningless slogans. This is why we have got millions of voters out there who are conned again and again to participate in flawed elections only to perpetuate the Zanu PF dictatorship. So, to Brett and his friends, my advice is the A1 task before the nation is to stop Chamisa conning the millions of his followers and supporters from participating in flawed 2028 elections to give the process legitimacy. I totally agree with you that Zanu PF has already got 2028 covered. They are cocksure that Chamisa and company will participate in the flawed elections. They are cocksure that millions will believe the idiotic lies Chamisa will tell them and give Zanu PF legitimacy. But that's where rational thinking comes in. Because as much as Chamisa was able to con people to participate in past elections on the basis of idiotic lies, I believe Zimbabweans, like all human beings, are a creature of reason. I believe many Zimbabweans out there the last 2 years have begun to show that they understand that Chamisa lied to them and conned them to participate in past elections. And I don't think if those people, yes, you may have to hammer it in, but if they really truly understand that Chamisa is a liar and a con man, they will participate in 2028 in the same numbers as we saw in the past. That, to me, is the solution to Zimbabwe's endless political and economic madness. We should not give Mnangagwa and his Zanu PF cronies too much credit. I believe Mnangagwa and his cronies, they're just buffoons. They are not as clever as some people would want them to believe. If they were smart, one would ask, why is it that they managed to destroy Zimbabwe's economy so thoroughly? Why are they blundering from pillar to post? Even rigging these elections. Let's face it, SADC and AU election observers told Mnangagwa the 2023 elections were flawed and illegal. And they would have gone one step further and denied Mnangagwa legitimacy, as they did in 2008. If Chamisa had not conned millions to participate in those elections. So the opportunity to stop Zanu PF is there in 2028. We just need to put our thinking cap on. And let me say this. If Chamisa is allowed to con millions of people to participate in the flawed 2028 elections and gives Zanu PF legitimacy, everything else we say and do will not matter at all. Because you will still turn around and say, well, why did so many people participate? We have to stop those people being conned by Chamisa. Chamisa himself is not that smart. Mnangagwa is not that smart. We just need people who are smarter. Smart enough to realize that, to tell the people that you are being conned here. And I think the opportunity is there. We just need to seize it. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.